So, this is going to be a walkthrough of the June 2018 paper 2 calculator. Let's make a start. So question 1, we have some indices. Whenever you multiply indices, you just add them together. So this will become m to the power of 7, so that's 4 plus 3. The next one, when you have an indice outside the bracket like this, it's just multiplying everything inside. You can imagine the n and the 5 have the power of 1, so this can be written as this. 1 there. And now you can multiply that by each one of them. So that becomes 5 to the power of 3, because that's 3 times 1. Then you have n to the power of 3, because that's 3 times 1. And p is going to be 3 times 3, which is 9. And then we can write this as, well, 5 cubed becomes 125. So that's 125 n cubed p9. So the next one, we have a fraction. So we can take this step by step. So we can start on the left, so that's 32 over 4. That becomes 8. Then we have q to the power of 9 divided by q to the power of 3. When you divide indices, you subtract them, so 9 minus 3 is 6. And finally, we have r4 over r. That's the same as writing r to the power of 1. So 4 minus 1 becomes 3. So final answer then becomes 8 from there, the q from there to the power of 6, and r from there to the power of 3. Moving on to question 2, find the lowest common multiple of 40 and 56. It is a calculator paper, so you can just list out using a calculator to help you if you need. So in this case, it's just the 4 times table with 0 on the end. So you can go 4, 8, 12, 16, 200, 240, and you can keep going for maybe 1 or 2 more, and then again do the same with 56. So try sort of the first 4 or 5, see if you can find a match, and if not, you just carry on. So in this case, you can just use your calculator times 4. So 56 times 4 is that, and 56 times 5 is 280, and I know the next one here is 280, so I can see the lowest common multiple is that. Nice and easy. Next one, write down the highest common factor of a and b. So with this, the way I like to do it is, first I'm going to list out what a is, so we can see that's 2 cubed, so that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5, and now I'm going to list out what b is without the powers, so that's 2 squared, which is 2 times 2, then times that by 3, then times that by 5 squared, which is 5 times 5. Now I'm just going to grab my highlighter, so these two match up, these two match up, these two match up, and finally these two match up. So now I can write underneath this 2, which comes from here, times 2, that comes from there, times 3, that comes from there, and times 5, that comes from there. So if you do 2 times 2, which is 4, 4 times 3, which is 12, and then 12 times 5, which is 60. So that gives me 60. That's your answer for this one. Question 3. The line L is shown on the grid. Find the equation for L. Okay, the equation of a line, remember, is y is equal to mx plus c, where c is the y-intercept. So if I drew a green line there, that's your y-intercept, and m is your gradient. So your y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. We can see that happens right there. It crosses the y-axis. So c is going to be minus 6. So I can write that underneath here. Now I just need to find what m is. Now m is the gradient of the line. You want to pick a nice point along the line. So by nice point, I mean something where the coordinates are easy to read. Like this point looks like the coordinates are easy to read on. And now you're going to go across 1. And you're going to go up until you meet the line again. So that's up by 3. So we've gone across by 1, up by 3. So that means the gradient of this line is 3. So this will become 3x. So your final answer is going to be y is equal to 3x minus 6. 4. Raya buys a van for 8,500 plus VAT at 20%. Raya pays a deposit for the van. She then pays the rest of the cost in 12 equal payments of £531.25 each month. Find the ratio of the deposit Raya pays to the total of the 12-month payments. Give your answer in its simplest form. Okay, the first thing we want to do is find out the total it cost, because at the minute it says Raya buys a van for 8,500 plus 20% VAT. So the total cost, so if you can write that here, total van cost. So that is going to be 8,500, and we're going to add 20% VAT to that. So what we can do is find 20% of 8,500 and then add that on to 8,500. And if you type that in your calculator, you'll get 1,700. So that means the total cost must have been 8,000 that she paid plus the 20% VAT, which brings the total cost to 10200. So that's £10,200. Then it says she pays the deposit and then she pays the rest in 12 equal payments of £531.21. So we need to figure out, well, how much do these payments total up to? And the way we do that is we can do 12 times 531.25. So these payments total up to 6,375. So that means you must have paid a deposit of 10,200 minus 6,375. That's how much deposit she paid, which is 3,825. Let me just type that in again. So 10,200 minus 6,375. Yep, that gives us 3,825. And now they want the ratio of the deposit to the total 12-month payment. So the total 12-month payment is 6,375, and the deposit is 3,825. So normally ratios are written with 1 to something. So to get this to 1, we can divide this side by 3,825, and we can divide this side by 3,825, and that gives me 5/3. Now, this is the right answer. However, if you don't want the fractions, we can times each side by 3, and that gets rid of the fraction, and it ends up with 3/5. Both answers are fine. Question 5. Complete the table of values for y is equal to x squared minus x minus 6. Now with this one, you just want to be careful when you type this in your calculator. Make sure you use brackets for negative numbers. So for example, with -2 in your calculator, you would type it as something like this. This is where people lose marks because of not typing the brackets in. So that then gives you 0 for that one, -4 there, -6 there, -4 there, and a 0 there. Now once you've done that, the next question then asks you to plot this on this graph. So if I zoom right out so I can see everything in one go. So the first one we have -3, 6. So along the corridor up the stairs, that one is going to be there. The next one is -2, 0. That is going to be there. The next one is going to be -1, -4. That one is going to be there. The next one is going to be 0, -6. That is going to be there. And then we have 1, -6. And then we have 2, -4. And then we have 3, 0, that is going to be there. So you end up with something like this, and you'll use a pencil to draw a line through that, and that will look something like, something like that. Use the graph to find the estimates for the solution to the equation x squared minus x minus 6x is equal to -2. So remember the equation they gave us at the top looked something like this. Y is equal to x squared minus x minus 6. So in this case, if you notice, this and this are the same, but there's a minus there, so that means y must be -2. And it says solutions, so there must be more than one answer. So we need to look for when y is -2. So if you go up to a graph, y is -2 right there. And if I get my ruler, I can draw a line across using a pencil. If I put that just there, and I get my pencil, draw a line across. There we go. Get rid of the ruler. Let me just do that again. I'm not sure what happened there. Oh, actually, I can just do that freehand like so, and that should turn into a straight. There we go. Of course, you'll do this with the ruler, and now you'll read these points off. So that's going to be that point there, which looks like -1.5, and that's going to be that point there, which looks like 2.5. So our answer is going to be -1.5 And carefully, it's not a coordinate. You're going to type the word and, don't put a comma in between because it'll then look like a coordinate, and 2.5. Moving on to the next one, a force of 70 newtons acts on an area of 20 centimeters squared. The force is increased by 10 newtons. The area is increased by 10 centimeters squared. Helen says the pressure decreases by less than 20%. Is Helen correct? You must show how you get your answer. Okay, so we've been given the formula. Let's sub in the values. So we have pressure is equal to force over area. So initially we've been told the 70 newtons acts on 20 centimeters squared. That gives us 3.5. And then we've been told, if I just draw a line through there, so the other scenario we've been told is the force is increased by 10, so that then becomes 70 plus 10, and the area is increased by 10, and that gives us 2.666 recurring. So now that we've got that, we need to figure out the difference, the percentage change. So to work out the percentage change, we're gonna do 3.5, take away 2.666 recurring, and divide that by the original pressure, and then times that by 100 because we want it as a percentage, and that gives us 23.8%. Now the question says, is Helen correct? So we need to respond by saying, no, she is not correct. She said the pressure decreases by less than 20 because, and then you just try to mention the answer in your response. No, she is not correct because the pressure does not decrease by less than 20%. It decreases by 23.8%. So moving on to the next one. 7. Enlarge the shape A by a scale factor of 1 over 3. Center 0, 1. So they've labeled the center on for us as well. Now the way we do this is we're going to see how much do we have to go across to get to these points. So if I just label these points in fact I'll color them in green. So these are the points we're interested in. That one there, that one there, that one there, and that one there. So to go from the point 0, 1 to the first point, we're going to go across 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go up by 1, 2, 3. So notice now we've gone across by 3 and up by 3. So if you factor in the scale factor, which is 1 over 3, times that by 3, that gives us 1. So that means to get this same point scaled down, we need to go across by 1 and then up by 1. So that would be here. I'm going to rub these off now, but I'll keep drawing them on for each one. Now if I go to the next one, so if I go to, for example, this point here, I'm going to go across by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to go up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've gone across by 6, up by 6, we're scaling it by a factor of 1 over 3, that gives us 2. So that means at this point here, we're going to go across by 1, 2, and we're going to go up by 1, 2. So that point will end up there. And I'll do just one more. So going up to this point here now, we're going to go across by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to go up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now if I do 9 times 1 over 3, that gives me 3. So that means I go across by, so I go across by 2, and then I go up by 3. So I'm going to go across by 2. So let me just get that there. So across by 1, 2, and up by 1, 2, 3. So that's there. And hopefully you can see where the last point will be. So with this point, you don't need to really go up there. We'll know it'll end up somewhere here. So now just drawing your lines, connect that all together. Like that, using a pencil and a ruler. 60 people were asked if they prefer to go on a holiday in Britain, Spain, or Italy. 38 of the people were male. 11 of those 32 people who said Britain were female. 8 females said Italy. 12 people said Spain. One of the females is chosen at random. What is the probability that the female said Spain? So with a question like this, you want to draw a table. So we've been given some data. Let's start with what we've been told in the first line. So they go to either Britain, Spain, or Italy. So we can write Britain, Spain, Italy here. And the next thing we're told is they're either male or female. And we can add a total column on this side and a total on this side. And then I can divide this into a table like this. And of course, you can use a pencil and a ruler to do the exact same in the exam. So we know the total amount of people because, let me just draw this final line on here that I've missed. So we know the total amount of people is 60, so we can write 60 there, that's the total. We know 38 were male, so we can go across to the male column and write 38. Then it says in this line that 11 of the 32 people who said Britain were female. So we know there's 32 that said Britain. Out of them, 11 were female. Now we can figure out what this one here is because this and this add up to give me this. So what do you add to 11 to give you 32? And the answer is 21. So this becomes 21. And then it says 8 males said Italy, so I can write 8 in there. Then it said 12 people said Spain. So in total, 12 people said Spain. And I notice I can figure out this one here because these two must add up to give me this. Well, sorry, these three must add up to give me this. So this is going to be 16 because 32 plus 12 plus 16 give me 60. Well, now that I know what this is, I can use that to figure out what this is because 8 plus some number is equal to 16, which must be 8. And now I can see another gap that I can figure out. I can't figure out this one yet because I don't know what the total is, but I can figure out what this one is because I know the total is 38. So 21 plus 8 give you 29. And then I'm going to subtract that from 38 to get 9. And that 9 goes there. And then this becomes 3. And then this becomes 22. So one of the females is chosen at random. Work out the probability. So the bit of data we're interested in is females. So in total, there's 22 females. And the probability she said Spain is 3. So the answer is going to be 3 out of 22. 9, we have Jean invests £12,000 in an account paying compound interest for 1.2 years. In the first year, the rate of interest is X%. At the end of first year, the value of Jean's investment is £12,336. In second year, the rate of interest is X over 2%. What value of Jean's investment at the end of 2? So what is the value? Okay, so one thing you want to remember with questions like this is when you're normally given a percentage, so for example, 3%, what you do is you add it to 100%, so it'll be 100 plus 3, which gives you 103%. And then when we're using it in calculations, we use it as a fraction, so we hop the decimal back in, and that becomes 1.03%. I'm just putting this here as a reference. So in this case, we have X as the percentage. We're going to add that to 100. And then whatever value we get, because it's a percentage, you've got to remember this whole thing equals a percentage. We want it as a decimal. So as a decimal, we're going to divide this all by 100. So we'll have X plus 100. Divide that by 100, and we can write that as 0.01x plus 1. So we're going to do 12,000 times the decimal, which in this case is 0.01x plus 1, and that equals to £12,336. So now we can rearrange this and work out what x is. So we can divide each side by 12,000. Just change my color there. So that's 0.01x plus 1 is equal to 1.028. And now I can subtract 1 from each side. So subtract 1 there, subtract 1 there. Now I'm left with 0.01x is equal to 0.028, which then means that x is equal to 2.8. And now the question says in the second year, the rate of interest is x divided by 2%. So if I come back up here, so that then becomes 2.8, divide that by 2, which is 1.4. And then that then becomes 100, just like I went through the example up here. That then becomes, let me just scroll down so you can see it, that example up there. So that then becomes 100 plus 1.4, which is 101.4%. And then as a decimal, that's 1.014. And then we can do the end of year 1, which is 12,336 times 1.014, which then becomes £12,508.70. Okay, vector A and vector B are shown on the grid. On the grid, draw and label vector minus 2A. So the 2 just means it's going to be double in size, so we're going to times it by 2. And the minus means it's going to be the other way around. So we're going to draw the exact same thing. So A is going to be twice as long, and it's going to point in this direction. So that is going to be minus 2A. Oh, I've drawn that wrong actually. Just drawn that slightly. So that will look something like this. Minus 2A. So the way I've done that is we're going 1 across here and then 2 up. So we're going to do the exact same. Instead of going 1 across and 2 up, we can pick a point and we're going to go 2 across and 4 up. And that's exactly what I've done with this one. So that's 2 across and 4 up. Cool, I'm just going to rub that off just to make that clear what I did. Now the next one says work out A plus 2B. So if you pick a point on A, if you pick this point here, we're going to go 1 across and we're going to go 2 up. So that's going to become 1, 2 as a column vector, and then we're going to add that to 2B. So it's 2 times B. So we have B here, we're going to choose this point because that's where it starts. So we're going to go 1 to the right, and then we're going down, so it's negative 3. So that becomes 1, negative 3. And then this can be written as 1, 2 plus 2 times 1 becomes 2, 2 times minus 3 becomes minus 6, and then we can do add the top and add the bottom. So that's going to be 1 plus 2, which is 3, 2 plus minus 6, which is minus 4, and that is your answer. Moving on to question 11. So f and g are functions, so we've got 2 over x squared and 4x cubed. Find f to the power of f bracket minus 5. So that's going to be, let's write out what f is. Let me use the same colors. So we have f of x is equal to 2 over x cubed. And then the question's saying we have f of minus 5. So that's going to be minus 5 squared. And when you times a number by itself, the negatives cancel out. So that's going to be 2 over 25. And you can leave your answer as that. You don't need to write it as a decimal. And then for the next one, we have f g of 1. So again, we'll first focus on, let me just write this out, f g of 1. Let's focus on this bit first. So if I look at the question, I've got f of x, g of x is equal to 4x cubed, and then it's got a 1 in there. So we've got g of 1 is equal to 4 times 1 cubed, and that's the same as writing the number 4. So now we know what this bit is. It's 4. So that's the same as writing f, which we've still got out here. We've still got this f we haven't done anything with. So that's going to be f bracket 4, and then that becomes 2 over 4 squared, which comes from that equation there, which then becomes 2 over 16, which can be simplified to 1 over 8. So moving on to the next one. So it says the graphs for y against x represent different types of proportionality. Match each graph. So the first one is saying y is directly proportional to x. So that is going to be b. They both increase at the same time. Then we've got y is equal to x squared. Remember, the x squared graph looks something like this, and that's the closest one there. And then we have y is proportional to the square root of x. That is going to be a. And then we've got y is proportional to 1 over x, and that is going to be c. Moving on to the next one, 13, we have a, b, c, and d are points on the circumference of a circle with a center 0, center O. So we've got FDE is a tangent to the circle. Show that y minus x is equal to 90 degrees. You must give a reason for each stage of your working. So remember, a tangent meets a circle at 90 degrees. So we know that this angle, change the color. We know that this angle here is going to be 90 degrees. Okay, they're interested in x and y. X is there. We somehow need to get y there. So y is going to be that full angle there is y because of alternate segment theorems. So first thing that we can write is that let me just change my color. We can write that ODE is 90 degrees, and that's because the tangent meets the radius at 90 degrees. And then the next statement is that BDE is y because it's an alternate segment theorem. And now, in order to work out this bit, so we have y and then we have x there, so that's the 90 is the green bit. So angles on a straight line add up to 180. So we have 180, which is angles on a straight line. Do we need to know that? So the question is saying x minus y. That is right. Okay, there we go. I see it. So notice that bit there where I've drawn the green line. I'll just zoom in a bit more. This bit here is the 90-degree angle, so that's 90. And then if you subtract x from y, you get 90 because this bit here is what x is and y goes all the way there. So if you subtract the two, that gives you 90. And then you can just write, he marks as this 3. So then you can just write y minus x is equal to 90. So Dylan was asked to give some possible values of x and y. He said y could be 200 and x could be 110 because 200 minus 110 is equal to 90 degrees. Is Dylan correct? Now in this case, you can notice y is here. And if I was to just get my highlighter, this is a triangle, and that triangle has y in it. Now angles in a triangle must add up to 180, so y cannot be 200. So in this case, you can write angles in triangle add up to 180 degrees, so y cannot be 200 degrees. Looking at the next one, the distance time graph shows information about part of a car's journey. Use the graph to estimate the speed of a car at time 5 seconds. Now it's saying use the graph, so you can't use the equation speed is equal to distance over time here. You'll have to use the graph. So we're going to have to draw a tangent at 5 seconds, which is there. 5 seconds is right there. You're going to get your ruler, draw a tangent at 5 seconds. That looks about right to me. Let me just, oops. Right, let me just get my pencil tool and draw that line on. There we go. Let's go to the ruler. There, I've got my line now. And pick a nice point, if you can find one. So there's a nice point there. And then we can just use maybe that point there. So that will come from there all the way till down here, which is 60. And that's 4, 8, 12. So that's that bit there. And then this is 4, and this is 7, which is 3. So it's going to be the change in y over the change in x. So you can do 60 minus 12, divide that by 7 minus 4, and that gives me an answer of 16 meters per second. Question 15. A darts team is going to play a match on Sunday. And on Saturday and Sunday, the probability that the team will win on Saturday is 0.45. If they win on Saturday, the probability that they will win on Sunday is 0.67. If they do not win on Saturday, the probability they will win on Sunday is 0.35. Complete the probability tree diagram. So we know probability adds up to 1. So the probability that they lose must be 1 minus 0.45, which is 0.55. And now we've been told in the question that if they win, the probability that they'll win again on Sunday is 0.67, so we can write that there. Again, probabilities add up to 1, so this is going to be 1 minus 0.67, which is 0.33. And then it says if they don't win on Saturday, the probability that they'll win on Sunday is 0.35, so that's 0.35 there. Again, probabilities add up to 1, so that's going to be 1 minus 0.35, which gives you 0.65. And it says find the probability that the team will win exactly one of the matches. So the probability that they'll win exactly one means that they're going to either win and then lose, or lose and then win. So that essentially looks like this in the graph. So they're going to win and lose, or they're going to lose and then win. So then that becomes 0.45 times 0.33, and this becomes 0.55 times 0.35. And if you type that into your calculator, you will get that and 0.1925. And then finally, you can add the two together. So that'll be 0.1485 plus 0.1925, which gives you 0.341. So for the next one, it says draw the graph of x squared plus y squared is equal to 12.25. Now, hopefully you've noticed that this is the equation of a circle, which is x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. So we can see that this and this are going to be the same. So that means r squared is equal to 12.25. If I square root both sides, I get 3.5. So the radius of the circle is going to be 3.5. So if I go onto my graph and plot on the points for this, if I just scroll up a little bit, so 3.5 is going to be somewhere, actually if I zoom in for this one, because I'll have to be accurate. So 3.5 in the y-axis is going to be there, and then in the x-axis it's going to be there, and then in the negative x-axis it's going to be there, and then in the negative y-axis it's going to be there. So now if I join all these points together as a circle, that will look something like let me do that again. Nice. So now I just need to make sure it sits properly on them points as I expect. Might need to be slightly wider. It's fine on this side. It looks fine. Of course, you'll do this with a compass in the exam, but I'm just trying to be as accurate as I can. I think that looks good. Okay, so the next question is, hence find the estimates for the solution of the simultaneous equation. So the word simultaneous just means when two lines cross each other at the same time. So we've drawn on this, we just need to draw on this now. Now in order to draw that on, remember the equation of a line, like we did earlier, is equal to y is equal to mx plus c. So at the minute we have 2x plus y is equal to 1, subtract 2x from each side, and you end up with y is equal to minus 2x plus 1. So we need to draw a line on for this. So we know the y-intercept is 1, so that means it's going to cross in the y-axis right here. And we know for every one that we go across, so for every one that we go across, we go down by 2 because it's got a negative gradient. So the line will be passing through these 2 points. And You can plot more points on if you want, or you can just grab a ruler at this stage and draw a line through these two. And if I get my pencil tool, actually I won't use my pencil tool, I'll just use a different color. And it looks something like that. And of course you'll have drawn this with a compass, so your line will be a lot more accurate than mine in terms of the circle. And now that we've drawn that, we need to find out when it crosses this. So this to me looks like it's going to be roughly, so in the x-axis we definitely know it's a 2 in the x-axis, and in the y-axis it looks like it's minus 2.9. And then for the other one, it looks like in the x-axis it's going to be 1, well, minus 1, and in the y-axis it's going to be 3.3. The histogram shows information about the time taken by some students to finish a puzzle. Complete the frequency table for this. So the first one, 0 to 4 to 5, has a frequency of 4. Now, the way they've done that is this bottom bit here, so that's 5 there. So the range here is 5. The height of this is 0.8, so they did 5 times 0.8, and that's how they got the 4. Now, the next one is from here till here. So that has a width of 10, and it has a height of 0.4, so that's going to be 10 times 0.4, which is 4. And then the next one is going to go from there to there, which again has a width of 10 and a height of 0.6, so that's 10 times 0.6, which is 6. And then the next one is 5 times 1, and then the last one is 20 times 0.2. So that's from there to there, that's 20, and there's the height. So find estimates for the lower quartile of the time taken to finish the puzzle. So first thing we're going to do is total up the frequency. So if you total all this up, you get 23. And as part of the method, you can sort of write here what you've done. So that'll be 4 plus 4 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4. So that gives you 23. And then to work out the lower quartile, we're going to use n plus 1 divided by 4. So which becomes 24 divided by 4, which then gives us 6. So where does the 6 appear in the frequency? So if you look at the first one, that's 4. The next one is 4 plus 4, which is 8. So it's going to be there. And the way I'm doing that is you always just add the previous value on. So that would be 4 plus 4 plus 6, which is 14. And the next one would be 4 plus 4 plus 6 plus 5, and so on. So we know it's not going to be in there, and it's going to be in there. So that's this bit here. And that's a 6. So it's in the range 5 to 15, and it's going to be in between that, so we can just do 5 plus 15, divide that by 2, so that's 20, divide that by 2, and that's 10, so that can be 10 minutes. And it does say find an estimate, so we can leave it at that. So question 8, we have a cuboid where AB is 7.3, CH is 8.1, BCA is 48 degrees. Find the size of the angle between AH and plane ABCD. Give your answer correct to one decimal place. So we know AB, which is that length at the back, that's going to be the same as this length at the front here, because it's a cuboid, so that's 7.3. We know CH is 8.1. And then we have BCA. B, C, and A. So if I just draw a line between them two, so that's that there, and that angle there is 48 degrees. Okay, and then it says find the size of the angle between A and H, and if I draw a line between A and H, that's that there, and the plane ABCD, so that's going to be this angle here, and that is going to be, well, that's what we need to find, so we can just call that X. So now this might look like a really confusing question, but if you draw out what we've gotten, so for example, the first thing we can look at is AH, right? So we have A to H, which goes across like that. Actually, let me use a different color. So It's not confusing with them lines. So if I draw out that triangle, there we go. Stop, that's a right angle there. So we know this is A, that's H, and then that is C. So that's what I've drawn on. So we know C to H is 8.1. We don't know what A to C is or A to H is, and the question wants us to find X. Right, what else did they tell us? They also told us BCA. So if I now draw on BCA, which looks something like this. So that's B, C, A. I know that A to B, they gave me that in the question, is 7.3. And they told me that BC is 48 degrees. And in this question on the right, let me just use my highlighter, we've only been given one side and nothing else, so we can't really use SOHCAHTOA or any form of trigonometry. We need at least two values. In this side, we have a side and an angle. Because we have a side and an angle, we can use trigonometry to figure out the size of any side of any other side. So if I come and look at this one, for example, this can be the opposite, that's the hypotenuse, that's the adjacent. Now, one other thing you want to notice here is we have A to C here. Let me use a different color, in fact. So we have A to C here, and we have A to C here. So if I can figure out what A to C is on one of these, I can use it on the other triangle. So if I figure out what A to C is here, I can get rid of that. We don't need that. So if I use sine here, so we'll have sine 48 is equal to opposite over the hypotenuse. I can now figure out what the hypotenuse is, which is going to be 7.3 over sine 48, and that becomes 9.8231. So hypotenuse, remember, is AC, so now I know what this side is. So that's 9.8231. Now I know what two sides are, I can use trigonometry. So if I label these sides again in here, so that's going to be the opposite, that's the hypotenuse, that's the adjacent. I don't know anything about this side and I'm not interested, so that leaves me with O and A. So that becomes tan x is equal to O over A. And in order for me to get x, I'll have to write tan to the minus 1 O over A 8231. And that gives me x to one decimal place as 39.5. Next one, shape S is 1/4 of a solid sphere with a center O. The volume of S is 576 pi centimeters cubed. Find the surface area of S. Give your answer correctly to significant figures. You must show you're working. Okay, we've been given the volume, but it's asking us for the surface area. So we need to work out, in order for these formulas to work that they've given us on the right, we need the radius. So let's start with the volume and see if that can get us a radius. So if we start off with the volume, we know that the full volume is equal to, they've given us that, 4 over 3 pi, let me write that a little bit smaller so I can keep everything on the page. That's going to be 4 over 3 pi r cubed, but for a quarter, the volume is equal to going to equal to 1 over 4 times that same volume. Because it's a quarter, we can cancel the 4's out, so that leaves me with volume is equal to 1/3 pi r cubed for a quarter sphere. But now they've told us that, because they've told us the volume of this sphere, which is a quarter, is 756 pi. So if I come down here and I write 7576 pi is equal to this formula, I can cancel the pi's out because I can divide each side by pi. I can then times each side by 3, and that gives me 1728 is equal to r cubed. And now I know what the radius is, so I can cube root each side and I get the radius as 12. So now I know what the radius is, I can now use that for the surface area. So again, with the surface area, it's the same thing. This surface area is for the full circle. I only have a quarter circle, so for a quarter circle, for 1/4 circle, the surface area is going to be pi r squared, because you can times that by a quarter. So And that surface area is only for the curved bit, which is this out here. This face and this face need to have the surface area calculated as well separately. So if you focus on the curved face in green, you'll get, so I'll just write the word curved here. So for the curved bit, we have the surface area equal to pi times 12 squared, which is 144 pi. And then for the blue face, I'll use the blue color. So for the blue face, it's 2 halves of a circle, which makes a full circle. And we know the area of a circle is pi r squared. So that will be, again, the same thing. So it'll be pi times 12 squared for the blue faces. They're both half circles, but 2 halves form one full circle, which is 144 pi. And now we can add the two together. So that will be this one and this one. And if you do 144 pi plus 144 pi, again, you can use your calculator for this. And then you need to give your answer to 3 significant figures without pi in it. So that's going to be 905 centimeters cubed. Martin did this question. Here's how he answered it. Martin's answer is wrong. Find his mistake. So his mistake is right there. So what he's done here is he's expanded it fine. And when he's done plus root 3 times minus root 3, he's wrote that as plus 3. So here we just need to write that root 3 plus root 3 times minus root 3 is minus 3 and not 3. Sian did this question. Here's how she answered it. She's also made a mistake. Find where she went wrong. So the place she went wrong was with this root 12. So root 12 is not equal to 3 root 2. So if you do root 12, you can write that as root 4 root 2, which then becomes 2, sorry, that's 3, which then becomes 2 root 3, not 3 root 2. So Jackson is trying to find the density in grams per centimeters cubed of a block of wood. He measures the length as 13.2 centimeters, correct to the nearest millimeter, the width as 16 centimeters, and the height as 21.7 centimeters to the correct nearest millimeter. He measures the mass as 1,960 grams, correct to the nearest 5 grams. By considering grams, work out the density of the wood. Give your answer to a suitable degree of accuracy. You must show all your working and give a reason for your final answer. So the first thing to know here is your unit conversions. So 1 meter, well, we don't even need to look at 1 meter really, you should just go straight with centimeters. So we know that 100 centimeters, or why am I even going 100? I should just go 1. So 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. And 1 millimeter, so if you divide each side by 10, is then 0.01, is then 0.1 centimeters. So rounding to the nearest millimeter is the same as rounding to the nearest 0.1 centimeters. So now with this, it does say here, by considering bounds, so that's a hint that we need to work out the lower and upper bound. So we know that density is equal to mass over volume. So we need to work out the lower and upper bound of the mass and the volume. So if you start with the mass, because that will be easier. So for the mass, we have 1970. So the lower bound will be 1970 minus 2.5. And how did I get 2.5? So we have the 5 grams, which is there. We divide that by 2, which gives us 2.5. So that means the lower bound will be 1967.5, and the upper bound will be 1972.5. And if you do the same for the others, so that's for mass. In terms of volume, we need to look at length. So that can be L. Actually, I'll put it in the middle. So we have L, we have width, and we have height. So with this, it's correct to the nearest 0.1, and that 0.1, you divide that by 2, and that becomes 0.05. And then we're going to add and subtract 0.05 from the length, which then becomes 13.15 and 13.25. And then the width becomes 5.95 and 16.05. And then the height becomes 21.65 and 21.75. Now to work out the upper bound, we'll need So to work out the upper bound for the density, we'll need the highest possible value of mass, which will be this one here. That's the highest possible value of mass, so that's going to be 1972.5, and we'll need, actually I'll use my highlighter here, so we'll need the highest possible value of mass, and we'll need the lowest possible value for the volume. So the volume of this cuboid is going to be width times height times length, so that's going to be that, and we're going to divide that by 13.15 times 15.95 times 21.65, and that will give us 0.4343828. And then for the lower bound, for density, we're going to use the lower value, so I can highlight that again. That will be that one for mass, and it will be the upper value for the volume. So that then becomes 1967.5. Divide that by 13.25 times 16.05 times 21.75, and that becomes 0.4253677. And now for your answer, it does say give your answer to a suitable degree of accuracy. Now you can see in these two that they both round to 0.43 to 2 decimal places, so then you can write here that your answer is 0.43, as both bounds round to 0.43 to 2 decimal places. So I hope you found that video useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.